Hey, look at
Good
us.
morning.
Good morning. It's Saturday, March 2nd already.
Already. We're in March.
In like a lion, out like a lamb, or in like a lamb, out like a lion. What is the saying?
In like a lion, out like a lamb?
That makes
that's it.
sense.
That makes more sense.
But I think it's actually the opposite.
In like a lamb? Oh, so you sneak in and then you go out like a lion.
I think it's nice weather when it starts, and then it's crappy weather at the end of the month.
So
I don't know.
In like a Chevy, out like a Ferrari.
Yes.
Okay.
Something like that. Welcome to CarYada with Raffi and Dan. Of course, over there's Raffi, and over here's
Dan.
Starting very soon, we do have the CarYada YouTube channel built, and we'll be launching that. And this show will only be available on the CarYada YouTube channle. Nowhere
exclusively.
Else. Yeah, we're going to go one place and one place only.
Yep.
So if you don't want to watch us, like we're on Twitter or X right now, nobody pays attention there.
Yeah.
And maybe we get one person. We can go on Instagram, but then we have to go. Then we have to go this way.
Us.
Oh, Elon's a schmuck. Elon schmuck.
No politics. We're talking about
how's
cars.
that politics? He's not a politician.
Well, that's true.
He owns Tesla. That's a car. He was a car guy, and he's become a political guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous. So yes, here's our show. What we do every week, if this is your first time, we talk about buying, selling, leasing, trading, credit, anything to do with cars, collecting, repairing. We do it all.
We do.
We talk about it. We don't necessarily do it all, but we do talk about it.
We do some.
Yes. Now, a big thing came out today in our little Cars and Coffee group email about Apple abandoning. Yes. They've been working on this for 10 years, and they're just like, we're not going to do an Apple car. They were going to do a self-driving, the iCar. Who knows what they were going to call it. They kind of got rid of the I, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because they don't really have, they have the iPhone still.
Well, they're doing the Apple name more than anything, like Apple CarPlay, Apple Watch.
It's not the iWatch.
So, yeah.
So
you get arrested for the iWatch.
It depends on what you're watching.
Yes.
So the concept is pretty ideal of them to, we went to a phone. We've revolutionized the phone industry, revolutionized the music industry.
Yep.
They've got a TV network. Why not have a car?
Absolutely.
I think what somebody commented, I forget who said it, it might have been you. There are a lot of EV companies out there that are failing.
Yes.
And they could use some cash infusion from Apple. And they already have all the products. So maybe just merge the two. Use an Apple operating system with Fisker as a good example. They're pretty much out of money. Rivian's having problems.
Yep.
Lucid's having problems. Rivian and Lucid do have Middle East money, so they could probably go on forever. But yeah, the EV market is going to be a lot different over the next 6 months to a year.
There are two driving factors behind.
Oh, look what you did.
Oh, very nice. There are two driving factors behind technology's interest.
You cause us to freeze. There we go.
Oh, there we go. There are two driving factors behind tech companies' interest in the driverless car. Number one is the average person spends up to 2 hours a day commuting. That's an average commute. So what that translates into in marketing terms is a giant amount of eyeball time while driving. So that market right now is basically captured by radio. And so if Apple can get a car to drive for you, then the only thing remaining for you to do while you're in that vehicle moving from one place to the next is use your Apple system to navigate the web and do your work and do your other. This is why Google has been developing a driverless car for so many years. They want those eyeballs. They want to control those eyeballs.
It's all advertising.
Absolutely. The second reason why tech companies want to be inside driverless cars is because the automobile industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There are millions and millions of automobiles, huge, that need to be made. And what most tech companies have figured out is that there's no difference between controlling an economy car and controlling a full-size SUV. The manufacturing requirements for those two things are nearly identical. So unlike being in the actual hardware business where tooling costs and engineering costs and development costs are radically different for these two platforms, the extremes of those platforms don't exist in the tech sector. So you can make 1, 2, 3 different types of basic hardware modules for driverless control, but they're essentially going to be identical. Your big changes are going to be in the software uploads.
Yeah. And more importantly, Adam says, good morning from Long Beach.
Long Beach.
I'm guessing that's Long Beach, Washington, not
Long
California.
Beach, Washington. There are 2.
3. There's one in Long Island.
There's a Long Beach.
A lot of Long Beaches.
How about that?
I think there's a Long Beach, New York. So yeah, I think that, I was just in Arizona and seeing those Waymo cars driving down the street.
Yeah.
Still freaky to me. And they just got approval in Los Angeles County to expand.
Well, they're already
driving in Los Angeles. That just seems insane to me.
They're already dedicated communities, residential communities primarily, that have driverless vehicles moving around inside the parameters of the community. They're not out on the main highways, but they're getting a lot of training in those enclosed areas, and it seems to be fairly good in terms of the successes, and they haven't had any major reported accidents that I'm aware of. So it's working inside controlled communities, but these are limited speed limits. There's fewer foot traffic examples, throughout the environment they're in. And most importantly, there's significantly less instances or incidents of
both those words work there.
Yeah,
both those words work.
Okay.
Incidences and instances and incidences
of
both
surprise traffic occurrences. That's the biggest challenge for driverless vehicles, is surprise traffic occurrences.
Yes.
Where you have things that can't quite be understood. A bag rolling across the street, walking a person crossing the bag rolling across the street, and something falling out of the car. These types of things are surprises to automated systems, so they have difficulties getting sort of figuring out those things on the fly.
Yes. Now Ray's a few days late, but he says happy birthday, Raffi.
And thank you, Ray. I was waiting to see what automotive offering you had to celebrate my birthday. We'll see how it goes.
He says, go CarMax. He's a big proponent of CarMax.
Yeah, I can understand why.
Big fan.
Big fan.
Now, some of the cars that Ray sold to CarMax, all 3 of them actually, they ran through the auction this week.
Oh, they did.
And we got to watch them. It was fun when I was in Arizona watching the text thread. I was on the airplane actually, and just watching the text thread of Ray and a couple of his buddies saying, "Oh my God, it's up next! It's up next!" And I think CarMax made money, even though they paid Ray way more than he paid for them. So everybody made money.
Everyone's a winner.
We're all winners.
There you are.
It's participation trophies. So yeah, how was your birthday, by the way?
It was great. I had a fantastic birthday. I got to celebrate with friends, and also my entire family came to visit. My 2 daughters, and
they came back from spring training.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was worried you were alone on your birthday.
Nope, not alone on my birthday. My family, big baseball fans, they went to spring training in Arizona, and brother-in-law joined them out there. So they had a great time, but they came back in time for festivities.
Awesome. It was my half birthday, if anybody wants to.
How
weird is that? We share a half birthday. Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
I mean, the odds of that are 1 in 180.
Yes. Those are the odds.
Now, there are people who had a birthday on the 29th.
Yes.
Which is leap year.
That's correct.
And we discussed, some people are only 10 years old this year.
Yes.
Because it's only their 10th birthday. However, do you celebrate on the 28th or do you celebrate on the 1st?
So
I say,
okay,
you celebrate on the 1st because it's the day after the 28th.
That is probably the correct way to go.
All right.
I have a very close friend whose birthday is on the 29th. He celebrated his 44th birthday, which is technically his 11th birthday.
Yeah.
So he's not quite a teenager yet. Celebrated his 44th birthday March 1st. And he usually does celebrate on the day after because, as you said, that is the leap to the next day.
That is amazing. There's a movie called The Pirate Movie. I don't know if you remember that movie. Christy McNichol and Chad Atkins.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Early 80s.
80s, yeah.
But he finds out he's a prince because it's based on the Pirates of Penzance. Finds out he's royalty, and on his 21st birthday, he becomes royalty. Oh. But then they go, but you're born on the 29th of February. So you're not 21, you're only 5 or whatever the number would have been. So it didn't work. That was their plot twist that they used. They used the leap year.
The leap year plot twist.
Yes, it's a good plot twist. But if you have any questions, by the way, this is what we do.
Including calendars.
We do calendars.
So I believe to solve that problem, any children born on the 29th should have just assigned birth dates March 1st.
Yeah.
That would make it easier.
Yeah.
There you go.
Technically, yeah. And you know, we work an extra day this year.
That's right.
Unless you're an hourly worker, you're actually making less money this year.
Yeah.
For the amount of work you're doing by one day.
I wonder if there are anti-leapites out there.
Anti-leapites? I'm sure there's an anti-leapite.
You know, there are pro-leapites and anti-leapites.
I'm neutral leapite.
Are you neutral?
I'm a leapite.
You're a leapite.
I'm just a leapite. I'm not pro. I'm not anti.
You're just...
I'm a leapite. Ray, for some reason, texted me this. He said to Raffi, tell Raffi to go to the old spaghetti factory and order the meat plate. It was excellent. All meat sauce too. This is how it gets served. It wasn't taken back.
Wow. Look at that.
Okay.
You can't show that picture.
Oh, Ray.
All right.
Sick puppy, Ray. Ray.
Oh, my goodness. That's just what I need.
Yeah. The meat plate. I don't think it comes out that way.
The meat plate, brought to you by Cox Automotive.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
Okay.
So that's what another exciting thing. We want to get your opinion. We're thinking of doing an episode once the weather gets predictably nice. Ray knows what he sent us. Once the weather gets predictably nice, we're thinking of going out to Yankapart, which is our closest junkyard.
Yeah. And
just doing a walk around and looking at some of the cars there and some of the interesting things and trying to stump Raffi.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that'll be fun.
What is this?
Yeah.
And maybe buying things for one of the project cars we all have, but maybe doing a live show from there.
Sure.
And, you know, and having it set up a table and get the
you know,
logo on a little banner.
We haven't talked about what they used to call junkyards. Probably about 40 years ago, the term junkyard was common. And you could go to a junkyard and go through and pick out the parts that you would need to repair your car by yourself, or you know, to improve your car. Sometimes take an engine out of something and put it into your car. But these were quickly became known as recycling centers or recycling yards, and then they called pull apart, pick apart, yank apart.
Pick and pull.
Yeah, pick and pull. Because the term junkyard obviously had negative connotations, and some of them were not allowed to continue running their businesses because of the environmental waste.
Yeah, so using the term recycling sounds cleaner. However, I will let it be known, I grew up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and my dad's father and brother started Rosenberg's Auto Recycling. And that's, I mean, who was talking about the word recycling?
Yeah.
And they were doing used auto parts way, way back in the day. They had one of the first ones. And the founder of Copart Auto Auction, where I used to work, Willis Johnson, he actually, he's almost credited with the yank apart concept and charging a cover charge.
Oh,
like he would charge $2 to get in.
To just get in, sure.
And the reason he did that was people are always stealing bolts and little clips
just coming
put in their pocket, and there's no way to really do.
I've got a metal detector coming out of the place.
There's no way to really do anything. So he says, "Oh, I'm going to charge $2 or $3 to get in." And Yankapart here in Paulsboro does that now.
Oh, okay.
And part of their reason is insurance reasons. If you pay to be in there, it's different than just it's open for anybody to walk through. Yeah. And I remember going. There was one called Fiesel's. And outside of where we lived in Beaver Falls, and my brother and I would go there, And if you want to get into the yard, if you said you're looking for something particular, they'd say, okay, well, you want to go da 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 da. But I'm just looking for some interior parts, looking for some knickknack, and then you just go and walk the yard.
Yeah.
And we actually found my mom's 1979 Pontiac Bonneville.
Oh, you found it there.
We found
in the
it
yard.
there. So that's how I know I'll never find that car, because it was
it was there.
It was there. It had been pretty much gutted.
Yeah.
The wheels were already taken off, and
well, there's a whole process for them. You know, when a car enters the wrecking yard, it goes into a certain lineup where it's assessed for what sort of parts it might have on it. Then after its assessment, those parts get cataloged into the system, and the system then broadcasts out to the National Junkyard Network. Yeah. And so that if somebody is specifically
JYN Junkyard Network
for the 1989 transmission coupler for a Pontiac, there it is. And so they can click that they want it, and they can click their bid to buy it. Now there's an auction system as well as part of that, but that's how the network gets going through most of the parts exchanges that occur. Walk-in buyers is more and more rare. Once that car has been gutted of about 80% of the parts that are sellable, it moves to another section, and then it's run for a certain period of time on the list. And if those 20% parts don't sell, then they get removed and discarded, and everything comes off as much as possible, leaving the steel shell. And then the steel shell is put into the compactor, compressed down into smaller components, and then those components are then stacked up and taken to a foundry where the metal is melted out.
Yeah, and this one apparently, they line up the cars first as whole cars. So if the car runs and drives, they'll just lay it out and say, okay, this is a whole car. We're not parting this one out yet. So you can buy this car. And then if nobody buys after a certain period of time, then they pull the wheels off and they go and they catalog, here's the American cars, here are the Japanese cars, doing segregation. And and you can go and, what part are you looking for? Like, I need a hood for an Eldorado. Do they have one there? Or I mean, a trunk top. They might not have one, but the network you're talking about, they might be able to go. Right. Now, it's online too. car-part.com kind of ties into that network. There used to be a teletype, I remember, at Rosenberg's Auto Recycle, because my dad had Leonard's Auto Supply on one side, and then Rosenberg's Auto Recycle was on the other side. So my dad was doing new parts, and they were doing used parts. And there were just a bunch of phones.
Yeah.
And they would pick up the phone. Hey, okay. Hey,
exactly.
And that was the system back then.
Yeah.
It was pre-computers.
Yeah.
And you would just pick up, I need this. And then guys, oh, wait, I got one of those.
Yeah.
And Copart, what they did was, and this is kind of genius, they made really clean, you could walk in and the parts were organized, and they'd take them apart. You say what you're looking for. It was all computerized. And they've since become a computer company. I mean, they're really a technology company.
Sure.
And the funny story, Willis Johnson said in his book, I think called Junk to Gold or something like that. I think it's available on Amazon. He said he had the Copart name because it was a cooperative partnership with all the junkyards.
Copart.
And when he launched the auction business, he didn't want to pay the $35 to register a new name, so he just kept Copart.
So he just used that.
A lot of people think it's car parts, but it's not car parts.
Well, this whole industry has radically changed, even over the past 10 years, because so much of what is in an automobile, once you take the glass out, once you take it, it's susceptible to the weather. So all of the electronics, the dashboard stuff, the engine management system, all that stuff has to come out. It has to be warehoused. It has to be stored in a safe, environmentally controlled environment so that it doesn't get potentially damaged. And most of that equipment, engine management stuff, is also susceptible to use. If it isn't used, it doesn't work after a certain period of time. It isn't going to function.
Right.
And that's just the natural sort of progression of the manufacturing associated with making these parts. Now, about years ago, I wrote a thesis on automobile recycling in my transportation during my transportation degree, and the thesis predicated that
I thought you just wrote it as a hobby, but okay.
It predicated that every automobile manufactured must return after it was done manufacturing and gone through its use cycle, the automobile company was required to collect the vehicle and give the owner a buyer credit towards a new vehicle or a cash out for the collection of the vehicle. Then the vehicle goes back into their in-house recycling system. And then all of that is managed through the company that makes the product. And it actually pencils out to be economically feasible, and it's certainly environmentally more friendly because it prevents the number of vehicles out there that end up just sitting there and eventually get tossed through the recycling system. And even though recycling is pretty effective in many areas, it's not as effective as it should be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of waste in the recycling process.
Yeah, because they decide it's not worth the time to fix something. Let's just use the scrap value of it and get rid of it. I've always thought, the concept of, I think I'm talking about my Rosenbug idea.
Yes.
I was going to have Rosenbugs and just going out buying as many Volkswagen Beetles as I can find and warehousing every part down to the bolts and having an entire warehouse filled with every fender, every seatbelt, every seat, and then building new cars with those and having these Rosenbugs that are brand new vehicles.
Sure.
That are all recycled parts. Every single piece of the car before that was a Volkswagen Beetle, and you put it together as a complete car. But there's no cost effectiveness there.
Well, there's also there isn't enough profit in it.
Right.
It's just not a model that's going to work, and most people are going to. When you look at what it costs to manufacture a brand new car today, vehicle manufacturing has gone down in total production costs significantly over the past 15, 20 years because robotics have improved efficiencies in manufacturing. However, other costs have gone up, and those costs move into a column that is actually easier to amortize over periods of time. So the amortization model for new car purchases is actually faster, which puts car companies in the driver's seat for higher level profitabilities. This was done strategically to grow quarterly profits in bigger leaps, so to increase the amount of shareholder value. So in recent years, we've seen rapid increases in the price of automobiles, and much of those price increases are falsely inflated, partly because the manufacturing costs have gone down, robotics have improved, but the biggest reason why we see it is just plain and simple shareholder greed.
Yeah, I've always wondered that because if you think about computers, what they do with computers, a computer with the power of this little Mac Mini we're streaming on today.
Yeah,
this thing is $699 brand new.
Yeah,
it's got an M2 chip, and it's super fast. You can do multiple things. This computing power 10 years ago would have been $20,000.
Yeah.
But this Mac Mini is always $699. So the price stays the same, but the ability of what it can do goes up. Whereas cars, Tesla actually is kind of showing this. Their prices have gone down because it's a technology. It's like a big screen TV. 43-inch TV used to be $4,300, and now it's $199 at Walmart.
Yes.
And it's better than that one was when it was $4,300.
Sure.
It was plasma and it was this thick.
Sure.
Now they're LED and they're QLED. I don't even know. It's not like a radio station, but they're super thin.
Yeah, so, you can hang them on the wall like art.
Yeah.
And
who's he?
Yeah, well.
What about Garfunkel? But I think it's called Moore's Law, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That every 18 months, things get twice as fast and half the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And over time, what we've seen in automobile manufacturing is we've seen a much greater or higher accelerated rate of manufacturing efficiencies. If you go back and you look at a car from the late 50s, and then you look at a car from the late 60s, they're not dramatically different in their construction methodology. It's not until you get into the late 70s, early 80s that you begin to see significant differences in the manufacturing processes, the materials, and not just the quality, but the overall build methodology associated with making a car.
Yeah. Now, Ray has something he wants to ask.
Sure.
Maybe he can film his next TikTok and we walk through Odessa together. So he wants maybe me or both of me or you to go and see if we agree on the cars. Warning, I go at a fast clip. Yeah, I've watched your videos, Ray. By the way, it's Radical Ray on TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
He just walks around. Look at this piece of shit. Look at this one piece of shit. That's a good car. This is a good car. For 2 years, then it's a piece of shit. But they're very entertaining. And he's had a few, explode and go viral. So it is something that would be fun.
Yeah. Why not?
That I don't know if that'll be an episode of this, but it might just be something fun for your videos to comment on. Or we could do a stitch, as they call it, where we do a video beside your video and we talk about the cars as you're talking about them.
Sure.
So then we don't have to actually go all the way out to Odessa in Auburn. Who wants to go to Auburn? But yeah, check out Radical Ray on.
And post your questions.
Oh, geez, there's that. Ray sent something about his car of the week.
Oh, there's one. Okay. Car of the week. Oh, my goodness. That's an H2, isn't it?
Is it an H2 or an H3?
It might be a 3. It's hard to tell. Yeah, that might be
What did he say? It is an H3. Huge piece of shit. Every time I look at one, the engine's bad. No, the weird thing with the H3 is it's just a Chevy Trailblazer. It's or the GMC Terrain or whatever the comparable one is. And just like the H2 is a Tahoe. That's really all it is. And the guts. It's surrounded by this really loud. Let me see if I can pull this picture up here.
Well, you have to wonder on a lot of cars. One thing that we haven't discussed is a lot of vehicles go out into the public that are generally good vehicles. But what happens is some vehicles are subject to a greater amount of neglect. And the reasons why, there's a wide range, but most of it stems from lack of automotive education. I didn't know you were supposed to check the oil. I didn't know you were supposed to regularly change the oil. I didn't know.
Idiots.
So, well, they're occupying their time and their intellectual energy with other things, and they expect their vehicle to operate like their refrigerator. You don't have to change the oil in a refrigerator or a toaster or a microwave oven.
You don't?
No.
Why have I been paying this guy to come to my house and change my refrigerator oil? God, that's expensive.
So the same thing with your cell phone. So there's a much more pervasive perspective on maintenance where it can be disregarded. So people buy a cell phone, there's next to zero maintenance other than plugging it in. And people have understood that plugging in is not maintenance. It's just something you have to do, like plug in the toaster. So without any regular maintenance, we have a very different sort of psychic perspective on what my vehicle needs. So people don't pay attention to it. They're not tuned into it. So the vehicle can suffer. Even though lots of cars can go for long periods of time without changing the oil, not changing the oil can be very problematic. If your car has a slight oil consumption problem, you can run the engine dry, and that will ruin the motor. And then there's a whole host of other things, including your coolant system, your automatic transmission, and the type of driving that goes with many of these vehicles. So a lot of times, cars that are purchased by a certain group of people that aren't necessarily automotive minded, the vehicles suffer. Now, if we instituted monthly maintenance schedules for our cell phones, and everybody had to follow the monthly maintenance schedule for the cell phone, we would have a significant shift in perspective on the value of repair or general service.
Yeah, and a lot of warranties, and people don't realize this. Hyundai and Kia have that 100,000-mile warranty. If your engine blows during that time and you can't prove you got all your oil changes as required, they're not going to honor your warranty. It voids your warranty. And they don't beat that over the head enough. And I think they do that on purpose because that way they don't have to pay the warranty because they have a legitimate claim. But it's also why a lot of leasing, when you lease your car like a BMW or a Mercedes, it comes with all scheduled maintenance included because it's their car.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that you are taking care of the car when it's supposed to be, and it doesn't cost you anything. Therefore, when they get the car back at the end of 3 years, at the end of the lease, they know it's been well maintained as long as you actually do take it in. I mean, my wife's car was flashing as soon as like in December. It's like January, oil due January, and you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
And it gets annoying. Like, oh my God, I got to take it in. So, 2 weeks ago, guess where I was? Over in Seattle taking her car in, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And, it is a lease, and it's been extremely well maintained. So if you look at a cheap car, like a Mitsubishi Mirage, those are the cheapest cars you can get, I believe, if they even make the Mirage anymore.
I don't think they do, but
whatever their cheap one
general,
is.
yeah.
They have a cheap one, not the Eclipse.
Even a Hyundai, for example.
Whatever the cheapest one you can get. If you actually follow the maintenance schedule, that car is going to last you just as long. The reason so many cheap Hyundais and Kias have bad engines at 100,000 miles is what Raffi's saying. They're bought by cheap people who don't have the money or the time.
Well, now hold on. Raffi didn't say they were cheap people. Raffi said that they were educated in a different construct.
Uneducated.
So, I didn't say uneducated.
Kia loves the uneducated.
I'm going to be clear on this.
Oh, no, I can read between the lines.
It's just, look, people have different priorities.
Yes.
And, I have you and I have completely different mindset around our automotive priorities. So we have a different perspective on that stuff. That stuff is of value to us. It isn't necessarily a value to other people because they have other things they're concerned with. They can't put that automotive maintenance schedule into their area of concern. So they use up a vehicle the way they use up a cell phone, use up a television, use up a whatever it might be. And because so many people are used to hearing, look, this $130 microwave is no longer working. We're not going to fix it. Just throw it away, and you can buy a new one for $99 at Walmart.
Yeah.
And that's what people do. And so that mindset goes with the automobile because most people are buying $99 a month something. So they go and they pick up a car payment, whatever that car payment might be, even though over time, if you properly maintain your vehicle, it's cheaper than buying a new one.
Yes, that is true. And you and I do have different philosophies. You've had the same car as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
And I've had probably 9 cars
Yes.
since we've met. But I think it also goes to Toyota. Toyota makes a good car.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you don't see a lot of Toyotas with a bad knocking engine. And even though people can buy a cheap Yaris or a Corolla,
yep,
they'll last way longer because they've decided we're going to build the better car. So for the people that don't take care of their cars, Kia and Hyundai said we're going to build the cheap car. If you take care of it, it's going to take care of you. I honestly believe that if you find me a Kia with 200,000 miles that's had its oil change on schedule, it's done its 20,000 or it's 30,000 miles, it's 60,000, had the timing belt, had everything done according to schedule, it's going to be running just as well as a Toyota.
Yeah.
200,000 miles in, but it's going to cost a lot more because that person's done every maintenance and the Toyota person might have only done a few oil changes.
Yeah.
The Toyota will still be running just as well with a lot less maintenance.
And this is true of almost any car. A buddy of mine has a 1989 Porsche convertible, and he bought it in 1993. So it was a 4 or 5 year old car. And when he decided last year that he wanted to sell it, he asked me, what the best way was to do that. I said, well, what about the service records? He goes, I haven't done anything to the car. All I do is every year I change the oil. I take it to the mechanic. I have him inspected. I have him go through everything. He said, 2 years ago, we changed the fuel pump. I said, you've had that car for 30 years. And
wow.
And it's not a 20,000 mile car. It's got 50,000 miles on it. Now, granted, he hasn't driven it a lot, but for a Porsche to only have oil changes and a fuel pump over that many years, car looks great, car runs great. He says, no problem at all. And that's absolutely true. If you take care of a car and you take care of the fluids are the most important thing, your brake fluid, your transmission fluid, your oil, the coolant, get through all of that stuff on a regular basis, change it out and put fresh stuff in there. And you're going to get 200,000-300,000 miles out of a car trouble-free.
Yeah, my mom just texted me, Honda might need an oil change. Yeah, I think your Honda
due for an oil change.
Yeah. But Hondas, Toyotas, the maintenance is very, very important to do.
Any car maintenance.
Any car. Now, I had an Acura MDX.
Yes.
That I bought for $1,500 with 215,000 miles on it. first thing I did, the only thing I did actually, was new tires, because this guy brought up, hey, when it gets, because they had all season, like not really nice, good snow tires, and it's an all-wheel drive, but it had very, not summer tires, but it did not have the passenger car tires.
Right.
On it. And so I went out, I ordered 4 new tires, of more aggressive of a tread.
Yeah.
And I did 1 oil change 10,000 miles in. Oh, okay. I got an oil change as soon as I got it, and I did another one 10,000 miles in. I put 20,000 miles on that in 2 years, and sold it for $37.50.
And you didn't have any other trouble with
Zero. The car was effortless, and it was a Honda product.
Yeah,
and because it was when I bought it, I looked at the Carfax. The Carfax showed that it was dealer maintained, one owner car for its entire life. So the whole 215,000 miles, it was dealer maintained. Everything, every oil change on schedule was done. So I knew this car was a well taken care of car. The weird thing was, when it went through the lane, all the lights were lit up. Like every warning light was lit up, check engine, ABS, everything. So that scared all the other dealers away.
Yeah.
And then when it showed up at my friend's lot, there wasn't one light on. It's like it wanted me to buy it.
It wanted you to buy it.
It lit up so that I could get it for $1,500 at a time that I needed a good beater car.
Well,
and I loved it because it had so many dings in it that I would park anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't care where I parked.
Yep.
It was a badge of honor to get a new ding added to this Acura. And when I listed it for $37.50 on Tread, where I was working, it went within a week to the first person to test drove it.
We should poll our listeners and ask them, write in the highest miles you've ever had on a car. And I can tell you, one of the things that's most interesting about that is it becomes a badge of honor when your car starts to get high miles. I put 140,000 on that car. I put 180. I put 200. Are you kidding me? I got 260,000 miles on this. And it becomes a badge of honor because it's somewhat reflective of your maintenance schedule. The highest mileage car in the world was done by one man, and it was in a Volvo P1800 that I believe he bought new.
Yeah.
And he passed away a couple years ago, but he gave the Volvo in his will to the Volvo museum. And the car has 3.2 million miles on it, and every mile is documented. And the guy would drive hundreds of miles a day. I think he was in a sales position or something of that nature. But
he was a saint.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Roger Moore drove that car in
the Saint,
the TV show The Saint.
Yeah. But regular maintenance, I think 100,000 oil changes or something like that. But just regularly on top of things, tires, brakes, and the same engine. So
that's amazing.
It is. It's unbelievable.
And you think of a Volvo, and that's an old Volvo too.
Yeah.
Again, it's all maintenance. Did you take care of it? So in the comments while you're watching, before we go to an old school, what's the highest mileage vehicle you've ever owned?
There you go.
And I know mine is probably that Acura. I don't think I've owned anything that was my regular driving car that was over 200, but 200,000 is the new 100. It really is.
Absolutely.
I bought, when I moved back from LA the first time after the earthquake 30 years ago, which is exactly right now, it was March of 94.
Oh,
so we're looking at exactly 30 years ago. I sold my Mustang. I had an 88 Mustang that had oil consumption, and no one could figure it out. It was using a quart every 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Wasn't blowing smoke, wasn't leaking. I got a new engine because it was still under warranty. And then I sold that car, and I wanted a Camaro. So I bought an 85 white Camaro with T-tops, but it had 120,000 miles on it. Everyone was like, "You're buying a car? That's junk. It's dead. It's at the end of its life."
And you said it comes with a mullet. I
had a mullet back then.
Everyone had
I had hair and a mullet, but at T-tops, it was a wonderful car. And I went to the junkyard and I found nicer wheels for it.
There you go.
And I really loved that car. It was until I tried to drive it in the snow.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, twice I drove it in the snow. One time I was driving to Columbus, Ohio to do comedy.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I just did a nice
Yep.
720
Oh yeah.
and just kept going.
Yep.
It's weird, this heat feeling you get over your face. But I sold that, and the guy that bought it absolutely loved it. And I think he drove for a few years after that. But 100,000 miles.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Oh yeah.
I would not be afraid to buy a 200,000 mile car if it was well maintained.
Sure.
And didn't have everything falling off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eldorado's got 170,000 miles, and now that we put a few bucks into it, it's running really well.
It's not uncommon, like you said, for a new car to have 100,000 miles, and you're going to see that because the average driver puts 15,000 miles on a car. So a 10-year-old car is going to have 150,000 miles if it's been driven the average amount.
Right.
And a car that's maybe 5-6 years old
is
going to be 100,000 miles. And so as long as it's been properly maintained and the vehicle's been in let's say temperate climates, it's going to be a great car. Regular maintenance is much easier to get now than it used to be.
Go to Walmart.
That's right. You get regular maintenance at a Walmart. So there's really no excuse for listeners to not maintain their vehicles and enjoy the longevity that the product can offer.
Yeah. So that Eldorado, what do you think the average miles per year is?
Well, let's see, 187,000 miles.
171,000.
171,000 miles, and so I'm going to go with 6,000 miles a year.
Well, it's an 01.
Okay.
So it's 23 years, if I'm not mistaken. If my math is right.
Yeah. So
7,400 miles a year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you say, oh, that's high miles. 7,400 miles a year is super, super low.
That's right. Over the year span. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So no one wants to comment on the highest mileage. Maybe you're embarrassed. What's the highest mileage car you've ever owned?
Oh my
That's what I'd like to know. Do you have an old school for us?
I do.
Well, let's do some old school. And then when we come back, we'll find out the highest mileage cars. Well, let me turn off the post your car no questions thing. There we go. Here we go. Old school.
All right, today we're going old school, and we want to remind everybody that old school is not just for old cars. That's right. Turns out that a 20-year-old car qualifies for old school.
Is that the official? The board approved that?
Well, I think so. We're still waiting. I haven't seen the white smoke from the chimney yet. All right. But I believe,
and because we don't have a second screen, I really can't pull up pictures.
I guess you could. You could probably grab a few while we're talking. So what I'm going to start with, I believe the origin of this vehicle is now 25 years old, but it's certainly 20 years old, and that is the Ferrari 360 Modena. Modena for those of you searching. And what you're going to find is an amazing automobile. The Ferrari 360 was built by Ferrari at the turn of the century, basically, and offered in both the Modena and Spider versions. So you could get the enclosed car and you could get the open car, which came a little later. Now, Ferrari is notorious. We were speaking of maintenance. Ferrari is notorious for having built automobiles with the engine packages so tightly placed in the cars that the engine has to be removed in order to change the timing belt. Now,
or the oil.
This can be a very, very expensive proposition, and timing belts on high performance engines need to be frequently changed. So this can be an expensive proposition on many cars, sometimes as much as $20,000-$25,000 to change in a V12 mid-engine car. But the Ferrari 360 was the first Ferrari product that did not require an engine out service to do the timing belts. You can do the timing belts on your Modena or Spider. You can do them for around $3,000 to $5,000, which is very inexpensive for a Ferrari. Now, what's amazing about the Ferrari 360 is that it is one of the most reliable and durable Ferraris ever built. It has the V8 engine mounted in the middle of the car. So it's a mid-engine design, and all of the internal systems for that engine are electronically controlled. So you've got a vehicle that is going to be very reliable, very durable, and does not require a significant amount of maintenance. The tire costs for a Ferrari are going to be the same as for a Porsche or a Corvette. The general service and maintenance, oil changes, things like that are not going to be prohibitive. And stuff that is consumable like brake pads, rotors, various coolant lines and things like that, again, not exorbitantly expensive. Now, if you're looking to buy one from an investment perspective, I urge you to buy carefully and be very selective about your purchase, because the most desirable of these are going to be the 6-speed manual design. And now the 6-speed manual transmission is going to be the best one because they made the fewest number of them, because during this time Ferrari developed the F1 transmission, which was a paddle shifting transmission that allowed the car to shift automatically, but gave you the feel of a manual transmission. I believe this picture Dan's showing here is a paddle shift car. So the shifter,
the little tiny shifter right here.
Yeah, the little levers are on the steering wheel. So those paddles will shift just like an F1 transmission. Now the 6-speed manual cars are more valuable and will probably become increasingly more valuable. A good 360, an F1 360 in nice condition, can be purchased for the $75,000 to $90,000 price range. And to get a Ferrari, that's a very, very attractive proposition. That's half the price of a brand new Porsche, for example. Now, the 6-speed manual version is going to cost you a little bit more, anywhere from $110,000 to $140,000, or if you're looking for a pristine, low mileage, original paint, original everything car, you might pay as much as $150,000+ for it.
Wow.
So the Ferrari 360, a 20 to 25-year-old vehicle, very desirable, one that is going to continue to be collectible, and also one of the most reliable Ferraris ever built.
Now, are there any on Bring a Trailer right now?
There should be. There seems to be quite a few of them available periodically, and you can find them not only on Bring a Trailer, but you can find them in other. Here's the Spider, 360 Spider, the current bid. That one just started. Let's see, what else is there?
Finally, boom, there we go.
Yeah. So this one just came up. This is the Spider, 360 Spider. This will probably sell. It's got a 22,000 mile odometer on it. Let's see. This one will probably sell for probably 150.
Paddle shift?
Yep. It's an F1 car. This one looks like it's had pretty good maintenance history. Most Ferraris tend to be fairly well cared for, which is nice to find.
Timing belt in 2002 and oil change just this past October.
Yeah, so timing belt a year ago. They recommend the timing belt changes every 3 to 5 years, but honestly, contemporary timing belts are much better than they used to be.
8 previous owners.
Yes. Well, now hold on, because if you click on that, you might find that someone had a lease
and
that was reassigned.
Yeah.
So the title has to change. They could have moved from one state to another state. Oftentimes, multiple owners on a Carfax does not mean necessarily multiple individuals having purchased the car. But a beautiful design. This is Pininfarina design, and it's state-of-the-art technology at the turn of the century. And this is a car that's going to continue to be desirable. They did not make many. They made about, I think, 8,000 total of all models. And of the manual versions, I think there's fewer than 1,000. So those will continue to be the most desirable. But there's a lot of eyeball in a Ferrari 360. Great driving car, easy to maintain, and a very, very usable exotic.
Usable exotic.
Yes.
That's a great name for a porn star. No, for a for a dealership. Usable exotic.
Usable exotics. There you go. That's a Challenge grill, by the way, on the back. It's the lighter weight metal mesh grill. That went on the Challenge series cars. Ferrari built a separate race series called the Challenge series, and people would buy 360s and compete in the Challenge series.
Now, when you look at these pictures, and since you do so many pictures on cars for Bring a Trailer, do you ever look at them and go, oh, why'd they do that one?
Yes. Yeah, there's
like, what are they showing there?
Well,
that looks like a big gap right there.
It is, and this is something you'll see on Modenas. Is the 360s have metal bodies and soft, flexible front and rear bumpers, and the front bumpers are very large and they're very heavy, so they don't often fit tightly all around the entire car. This looks like crack.
Yeah.
And is that in the body material? Yeah. Yeah, so you'll see this. I remind people, Ferraris are not Hondas. They're going to display some production variances that you won't see in a Honda. And
like this picture, like, shouldn't they have detailed that a little better?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is easy to avoid if you adjust your exposure on your camera. These are very, very bright photos. They should have done a better job capturing the photography here.
It's all dusty. Bless you.
Excuse me. Yeah, and this is one of the challenges with, here's another example where they could have cleaned it up a little bit better, detailed it a little bit more. I'm sure somebody's going to point out in the comments.
Rusty.
It may be. It may be because,
or it might just be light, but it looks rusty to me.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of orange light in these photos, and it's not helping the car.
No,
and it looks like they shot it at some sort of construction site.
Is there a sticker there?
There may have been a sticker there.
Our camera's in the way. We have a camera in the middle.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cleanup and detail that need to be done to that car. But if you're looking for a Ferrari and you want one that you can enjoy and drive on a regular basis, the Modena 360 Modena is a fantastic car to consider.
All right.
There you go.
Well, there we have it. Do we have any other questions? Any of the viewers want to say anything? And do you want to tell us the highest mileage car you ever drove? Because by all means, let us know. If you want to get some clutch radio material, still available at airdanshop.com. We have not yet done the CarYada materials.
Those are coming up.
We will have CarYada swag when we launch on our new channel.
And then clutch radio swag becomes collector's items.
Yes. So grab some while you can. It's at airdanshop.com. If you ever want to email us during the week, it's show@caryada.com. Oh, I forgot to mention, we have a text line now.
Oh, yeah.
You can have a text line. Let me put this up here. Where can I put that? Put it right here.
Yeah.
This is our new text line. 610 CarYada. I don't know where 610 is, but
that's Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. It was the only number available through the text survey. Jeez. Can you tell I'm not all hopped up on coffee today like I was last time?
There you go. So you can text us at this number. We're posting it now. And so you can text. I get texts from friends just on my regular phone here. There was one today saying, "What's up with gas prices? Why are they all of a sudden jumping up?"
Because elections are coming around the corner. Duh.
Yep. Yeah. Another one says, "I understand food prices are going through the roof. I can see it at the shopping stores. What's happening with maintenance and automobiles? Is that going up as well? And should I do heavy maintenance stuff now or wait for the prices to come down?"
Don't wait.
Don't wait. The prices won't come down.
Yeah. Inflation's inflation.
Yep.
It's always going to go up a little bit. You know, people talk about, oh, if only I would have bought that house was only $50,000. I should have bought it. Now they're selling for $5 million. And David Brenner, the late comedian, used to have a great joke. They said, if you bought a house in the corner, this is my impression of David Brenner. If you bought a house in the corner of Hollywood and Vine in 1852, today you'd be dead, which is true. And Richard Lewis, one of my favorite comics, passed away this past week. I used to chat with him on Twitter, private message, and he would respond. He called me DR.
Nice.
And I found out once he passed, a lot of comics have been sharing the tweets, the Twitter messages. He would reach out all the time and talk to people, and it was pretty wild. That nobody talked about it until. And I was gonna message him literally last week because he's on the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I didn't, and then he died. So I feel bad.
That's like Bill Murray. Bill Murray has a lot of personal stories that never get told because he's very good at helping a lot of people.
Yeah. Dan wants to know parts availability options for limited production specialty cars like the Ferrari. How do you get parts?
So it's a very good question. So for a long time, it was difficult to get parts for cars like Ferraris because they just weren't available in the United States. However, second-tier parts suppliers have grown dramatically for Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, and Maserati because they've recognized that these cars have a much larger second-tier market because they don't get used up. They only make a limited number of these cars, but there's a high percentage of them that don't get wrecked or destroyed or become junk because they're used up. So that makes economic sense for a second-tier manufacturer. If they say, well, they made 8,000 of these cars, but if we go by the standard model, there's no market to sell 800 parts. However, they make 8,000 cars, there is a market to sell 4,000 parts or 5,000 parts because the survival rate on some of these model Ferraris is somewhere in the 65 to 70%. So that makes a viable market because at any given time, people are going to want these parts. So you see all sorts of things like exhaust systems, consumables like brake pads, brake discs, brake lines, various hoses. And oftentimes they'll improve the hoses, they'll improve the various things that are consumable on a Ferrari because again, the manufacturing over the past 20 years has improved. Materials have improved. Science associated with longevity of materials have improved. So yeah, there's a great opportunity for manufacturing, and also that makes and lowers the cost of maintenance on the cars because not that long ago you'd have to send a check to some guy in Italy and wait a week for it to get there, 2 weeks to get there. They cash your check, then they ship it to you in a crate. And then it arrives, a month and a half later. And then you got to find somebody who's going to help, actually put it together. Well, you can literally go today with a major engine challenge inside your Modena. You can literally go to Kent, Washington, Seattle, Washington. We're in a fairly major area, but there's in any given day, there's up to a dozen qualified mechanics, and they're very busy. That will do the work, and they'll do it for a reasonable cost.
Yeah, and like I think of the DeLorean, they made 9,000. There's 6,500 still in existence.
Yeah,
and there are parts readily available. Every part you need on a DeLorean is available.
Yeah,
so it's a similar, not as expensive either.
And Dan, who asked the question, Dan Lindquist, it's a reasonable question because many people worry about when they buy an older used car, where am I going to get the parts? Are the parts going to be available? And this is a good thing to do in general when you decide you're going to look into a much older car. Check around, see who's available to work on the cars, and what their service costs tend to typically be. If the former owner has their service records, check and see what they spent over the past few years. And do that calculation and expect to spend that much as you move forward.
Yeah, and look at that, we're at an hour.
Wow, how'd that happen?
I don't know. 30 minutes, like this is taking forever. Then boom, we're done.
Then we're done.
So that's it for this week. We don't have a closing. We still have the old one.
Yeah, we'll run the old one.
We'll run it just because that way that song's stuck in your head all day. But again, you can text us during the week, 610-CarYada. You can call us, 877-CarYada. You go to CarYada.com. The new page should be up soon, and we'll be launching this wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay.
All right. See ya.